Emma Walsh had been a nurse for 3 years, but room 407 still broke her heart every time she entered. The man in the bed had been in a coma for 6 months following a car accident, and in all that time, not a single visitor had come to see him. His chart identified him as Adrian Blackwell, age 36, CEO of Blackwell Industries. The hospital billing showed he had excellent insurance and substantial assets, yet he lay alone day after day. His only company, the beeping monitors and rotating nursing staff. Most nurses did the minimum required care for coma patients, understandably saving their energy for patients who could respond. But something about Adrian's solitude touched Emma deeply, so each evening during her shift, she took extra time with him. Tonight, as she prepared the basin of warm water for his bed bath, she noticed how the evening light fell across his face. Even unconscious and injured, he was handsome, with dark hair that had grown longer during his hospital stay, and strong features that held an expression of peaceful stillness. "Good evening, Adrian," Emma said softly, as she always did, treating him like the person he was rather than the patient he'd become. "It's Thursday, which means turkey surprise in the cafeteria. You're lucky to be missing it." She began the careful process of bathing him, maintaining his dignity while ensuring his skin stayed healthy. As she worked, she talked to him, sharing stories about her day, news from outside, anything to fill the silence. "My niece lost her first tooth today," she said, gently washing his face with the warm cloth. "She's convinced the tooth fairy is going to bring her a puppy, which is going to be a disappointing surprise tomorrow morning." Emma had read studies suggesting coma patients could sometimes hear voices around them, that familiar sounds in conversation might help stimulate brain activity. Whether it was true or not, it felt wrong to treat Adrian like he wasn't there. "I saw in your chart that your birthday is next week," she continued, carefully washing his shoulders and chest. 37. That's a good age. Old enough to have wisdom, young enough to enjoy it. Though I suppose you'd rather not be celebrating it here. She'd learned from his medical records that he'd been alone in the car when it crashed. No family listed. The hospital social worker had managed to contact a business partner who'd arranged the insurance and payments, but never visited. It seemed Adrian Blackwell had built an empire, but forgotten to build a life around it. "You know what's sad?" Emma said, rinsing the cloth. "Your business partner told the social worker you wouldn't have wanted to live like this, that you'd rather be taken off life support than exist in a coma. But here's what I think. I think that was the old you talking. The you who only cared about work and success. Maybe the new you. The one who's had 6 months to think in whatever dreams you're having. Maybe that you want a second chance." She finished the bath and began applying lotion to prevent bed sores, her hands gentle and professional. "So I'm rooting for you, Adrian Blackwell. I'm rooting for you to wake up and discover that life is about more than quarterly reports and board meetings. That it's about connection and kindness, and finding someone who'll visit you in the hospital." Emma realized she was crying a little as she spoke. "I'm sorry. I know I'm being unprofessional, getting emotionally involved. It's just that everyone deserves to be seen as more than their medical chart. Everyone deserves someone who cares if they live or die." She pulled the clean blanket up over him and adjusted his pillows. "Sweet dreams, Adrian. I'll see you tomorrow." As she turned to leave, she could have sworn she saw his fingers twitch, but when she looked again, he was as still as ever. Probably just wishful thinking. The next evening, Emma returned to find Adrian's condition unchanged. She went through her usual routine, bathing him and talking about her day. She told him about the little boy in pediatrics who'd drawn her a picture of a superhero nurse, about the cafeteria adding pizza Fridays, about the stray cat she'd found in the parking lot and was trying to adopt. "You'd like this cat," she said. "Very independent. Doesn't trust anyone. Reminds me of how I imagine you were before the accident." This time she was certain. His eyelids flickered. Emma's heart raced. She pressed the call button for the doctor, but continued talking, some instinct telling her that her voice might be important. "That's right, Adrian. Come back. There's a whole world waiting for you. I know you're in there. I know you can hear me." Dr. Patterson arrived and examined Adrian, checking his pupils and reflexes. "There's definitely increased activity. Keep talking to him, Emma. Whatever you're doing seems to be working. Over the next 3 days, Adrian showed more signs of emerging consciousness. Small movements, changes in breathing patterns, moments when his eyes seemed to track sounds. Emma spent every spare minute at his bedside, talking, encouraging. Believe on the 4th day, as Emma was telling him about a thunderstorm brewing outside, Adrian's eyes opened. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. His brown eyes were confused, unfocused, but definitely seeing. Emma felt tears stream down her face as she reached for the call button. "Welcome back," she whispered. The next hours were a blur of doctors and tests. Adrian couldn't speak yet due to the breathing tube, but his eyes followed Emma around the room. After the medical team finished their initial assessment and left him to rest, Emma returned to his bedside. "You probably have no idea who I am," she said softly. "I'm Emma. I've been one of your nurses. I don't know if you heard me talking to you all these months, but I like to think maybe my voice helped guide you back." Adrian's hand moved slightly, and Emma understood. She took his hand in hers, and he squeezed weakly. Over the following weeks, Adrian's recovery progressed remarkably. The breathing tube came out. His speech returned, though he tired easily. Physical therapy helped him regain strength. And through it all, Emma remained his constant companion during her shifts, their connection deepening beyond nurse and patient. One evening, 6 weeks after he'd woken, Adrian asked the question that had been building between them. "Why did you care so much? When I was in the coma, you could have just done the minimum required. Why did you treat me like I mattered?" Emma sat in the chair beside his bed, the one she'd occupied for so many months of one-sided conversations. "Because you did matter. Because every person deserves to be treated with dignity and compassion, whether they can respond or not. The social worker told me no one came to visit me. Not in 6 months. I know. Do you know why?" Adrian's voice was quiet. "Because I'd spent 15 years pushing everyone away, building walls, choosing work over relationships. I'd fired people for taking time off to be with their families. I'd missed my own mother's funeral because of a merger. I was alone because I designed my life that way." He looked at Emma with eyes that held both pain and wonder. "But you talked to me anyway. You told me about your niece and the stray cat and turkey surprise Thursdays. You gave me a reason to fight my way back." "I just did my job," Emma said softly. "No, you did so much more." Adrian reached for her hand. "I heard you, Emma. I heard everything. Your voice was like a lifeline in the darkness. And somewhere in that coma, listening to you talk about kindness and second chances, I changed. I didn't want to be that lonely corporate man anymore." 3 months later, Adrian was discharged from the hospital. His company had continued without him, and he'd made the decision to step back from daily operations. Instead, he used his resources to establish a foundation supporting hospital programs, starting with funding for more nursing staff so caregivers like Emma wouldn't be stretched so thin. He also asked Emma to dinner, not as his nurse, but as the woman whose voice had called him back from the darkness. "Is this appropriate?" Emma asked, smiling. "Dating a former patient? Probably not. But I spent 6 months in a coma learning that life is too short to worry about what's appropriate instead of what matters." Adrian took her hand. "You matter, Emma. You mattered to me when I was alone in the dark, and you matter to me now." A year later, on Adrian's 38th birthday, he stood before a hospital staff meeting with Emma at his side. He was donating a new patient care wing, but that wasn't what made Emma cry. It was his words as he explained why. "A year ago, I learned the most important lesson of my life, that how we treat people when they're most vulnerable says everything about who we are." A young nurse treated a coma patient with dignity and compassion, talking to him like he mattered even when she thought he couldn't hear. "Her kindness didn't just help me wake up. It helped me wake up to what really matters in life." He turned to Emma. "Compassion isn't just medical care. It's the recognition that every person, conscious or not, powerful or powerless, deserves to be treated with respect and love. Emma taught me that. And now, I want to help create a system where every patient receives that kind of care. Sometimes miracles don't look like sudden divine intervention. Sometimes they look like a nurse taking an extra 15 minutes to talk to someone who can't respond. Sometimes they look like choosing compassion over convenience, connection over efficiency, and sometimes, in the gentle act of bathing someone with dignity and speaking to them with kindness, we don't just care for their body, we call their soul back from the darkness, and in doing so illuminate our own.